This is the second video using the Sketchup program. In the first video, we reviewed and worked on navigation tools and some basic drawing tools right up here. So building on that information, let's continue with some drawing. I'll start with a basic rectangle. Click once to activate the tool, slide, click to turn the tool off. I'll then use the push-pull tool, touching the hot spot of the arrow, clicking once to start the tool, moving up this way. Orbiting this way a little bit. This time I want to add the arc tool, which is located right here. It is different than the offset tool, even though they're close together on the bar. Don't get them confused. This one has a little arrow. This is the arc tool over here. I'll click once. I click once to put the first point of where my arc will be, and I look to make sure that I have the end point listed here. So that means it's going right here at the very corner of this piece. I'll click once. I'll come over here to the other side to make the second point of the arc, and then I'll start to lift. Now, if I'm lifting this way, that means that my arc shape is parallel to the green axis, but I want mine to be parallel to the blue axis. So I'm going to start lifting up this way. There's the blue axis. Starting again, there's the blue axis. Moving slowly, get the height that I want, and click. And so what then I have designed is this arc shape here at the top, like that. I can grab the push-pull tool then, clicking once, and I can pull that across the top to where it meets over here at the end. Click like that. So that's using the arc tool. The arc tool can also be used maybe in drawing doors. I'll go back to the pencil tool. I do want to attach my door shape to this front edge here, so I just make sure I find the point that says on edge. I'll click once. Make sure it's on the blue axis, then I know I'm parallel. Click. I'll bring it across. It's on the red axis, so it's parallel to the horizontal line, and bring it back down there. I could then take the arc tool again, looking for that end point because I want to connect right to my previous shape. Click, second click over here, and then just raising my mouse to make that type of a shape. Using the push-pull tool then, I'll push that in just slightly, both of those just slightly. Now, using my eraser tool, again, the hot spot on the eraser tool is that little circle. I'll touch that to these interior lines, not the outside ones that will take off the front of my shape, but these interior lines right here. I can tap those with my eraser tool. I'll orbit around, and there's one more line right there across the top, and this one, an interior line right here, and a tiny one right there. Clean that up. So now, whoops, now I've made a tool, or I've made a shape then that I can see inside. And there's one little line I need to clean up right there, like that. So when you want to make doors and windows, you use the pencil tool to make the shape of the door or the window, and then use the push-pull tool to push it through. I'll come over here to the side, make a basic shape on the side, tapping that with my push-pull tool, push that in just ever so slightly, using my eraser tool then to touch the interior lines. Now I've got my shape. Cleaning up the inside lines, and I can see inside my building. A couple of lines right here to clean up, like that. Okay. The offset tool, which is this one right here, that looks like the arc tool, but it's the offset tool. I'll click it once. Come down here. What the offset tool does is it will make an offset from whatever edge. So I'm choosing this edge right here. If I were then to, and you can see that this edge is this face right here is selected because of all the dots. I'll click once and drag my mouse and see it's now making the same shape of that face. It's just offset. It's brought in a little bit there. And I'll find the shape that I want. Click. Now, using my push-pull tool, this time I'm clicking the tool to make it active, and this time I'm sliding it out. You can make something that looks like that. That's using the offset tool. Using the offset tool on a basic flat shape, I'll start here with this circle. Want to make my circle flat on the ground. Click once, slide the mouse, click. Then if I use the offset tool, click, and I can pull a second circle off there. I can do it again, click, sliding the mouse. Then I have these types of shapes that I can push, pull up this way. Kind of like the rings. Something interesting there. Okay. As a reminder, the selection tool, that's this one here. I can then, having trouble here, drag my selection. So I have this completely dragged in the selection here. It's all selected, all turned blue. I can then use this move tool right here. And I can move the whole item. It appears that I've somehow gotten it connected to the circle. So I will go to Edit, Undo Move, and I must have gotten it so close I selected a piece of my circle instead. So I'll start here. Looks like I got the man selected in there. So the goal is to get part of it selected. And hopefully not get other parts selected. And I'll have to work on that one. So, basic shapes and drawing. This time adding in the arc tool, the offset tool, and the move tool this way. Let me finish up with some roof lines. Basic shape. Push-pull. Now, options with roof lines at the top. I'll use my pencil tool for this to help out. Here's one style of a roof line. I'm going to make an X. I make sure I go from endpoint to endpoint, endpoint to endpoint. Now I've got an X there. Let me orbit just a little tiny bit. I need to make a vertical line then with my pencil tool that represents the height of the roof. I find this endpoint where those two lines in the middle meet. Clicking once, start sliding. It's important that this line is blue so it matches on the blue axis. I then can connect the endpoints of the top of my vertical line, then to the endpoints. Orbit this on around, back to my pencil tool, endpoint to endpoint, endpoint to endpoint. Then I've got a roof line. Okay. So there's one basic roof line, kind of a pyramid. Here's the other roof line. Start with a rectangular shape. Go back and get my tool. Rectangular shape. Push-pull. This time I'm using the pencil tool and I'm drawing a line down the center. I will look for specifically the midpoint dot that's in blue. That's the exact middle of that line. Click, sliding the mouse, midpoint. So I've made that line there. Let me orbit just a little bit around here. Next, it's important that I select that line only, just that line right there. So I use my selection tool, click the line. It's blue, so it's selected. I'll click the Move tool, which I used earlier to move my shape. Move tool. And I put it right on that blue line I selected. Click the mouse and begin sliding up. Make sure that that line on which you're pulling up is on blue axis to make sure your roof line is straight. Click, and there you go. So there's another possible roof line right there.